Hi, welcome to the Unconquered podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in today. I'm your host. My name is Sean Shakarami. My podcast is all about providing a free platform for other entrepreneurs and like-minded people to share their stories and tell a little bit more about themselves. As you know, creating content is time-consuming and costly. If you enjoy my podcast and my content, I'd ask that you please support me by buying my book, Resonate: Principles of Peak Performance. It's available on Amazon, and it's even free for Amazon Kindle users who have Kindle Unlimited. This book gives you an outline of principles that all but guarantee success in your personal and your professional life, and you'll learn a little bit more about my story as well. Also, I'm proud to announce a brand new partnership with Impact Health Share. If you're priced out of traditional health insurance, Impact Health Share might be able to save you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in healthcare coverage for you and your family. And lastly, if you'd like my help to build a residual income for yourself, please feel free to reach out. I'd love to share these opportunities with you. I'll drop all the links below, and thanks again for tuning in. Hey, welcome to the Unconquered podcast. Host here, Sean Shakarami. I have a fantastic guest, a guy I really just met, Mikey Henninger. He is the CEO, founder of a really neat company called Brewed Fantasy Football. He, like me, decided that corporate America, working the 9 to 5 grind, or what I actually called the 5 to 9 grind, because if you're really killing it in corporate America, you're starting your days at 5 a.m. and not ending them until 9 or 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
But was in data analysis and has chosen to use his gifts and passion to help other people just slay their fantasy football leagues. So real quick, before I make the introduction to you, Mikey, I do want to show people your awesome website, especially because I'm in Dallas. You can find Mikey's website at basementbrewedff.com. And the first thing that I saw here, man, was this Des Bryant video.
Yeah.
So me being from Dallas, introduce yourself a little bit, but we got to spend some time on the catch, man, the Des
Yeah.
catch.
Yeah. So, dude, that was, first of all, thanks for having me on, man. Really appreciate it. So the Des thing, dude, that was a little bit of a surreal moment. And it is funny because I am a Green Bay Packers fan. And obviously everybody remembers Des Bryant. They remember the catch or no catch, how depending on where you land on that debate. And I was this past, I think it was June or July, I was at a fantasy football conference, let's call it, in Ohio, where pretty much everybody gets together. Anybody who's a creator or in the industry, they were all there. And Des Bryant was there because he does he's not like specifically fantasy football, but he is, he's in the football space, in the creation space. So he was there. And by the way, nicest, most genuine guy I ever met. I mean, there was hundreds of people that wanted to ask, like, they wanted to ask him questions and take pictures and get autographs and all that stuff. I didn't see him turn down a single person. Like, he was there for probably 6 or 7 hours interacting with every single person that wanted to. So great guy. But yeah, in that interview that you see on my website, I started off by asking him who's the toughest corner he ever went against. And he told me Al Harris, which totally surprised me. And Al Harris used to be the corner for the Packers. So it got me into like Packer fan mode. And I was like, all right, man, I got to ask, Packer fan. And I didn't even ask him the question. I was like, Packer fan here. And he goes, I caught it. So yeah, man, it was a great moment, great story. And I don't know. Where do you land on that, catch or no catch? I mean, you're in Dallas, so of course you think it's a catch, but
I mean, look, so I'll give you a little bit of history and background on me, okay? I grew up diehard Cowboys fan. One of my earliest memories, I was probably 4 or 5 years old, 1995 season, Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin.
Pittsburgh Steelers.
And, I grew up, I don't remember every detail because I was so young, but I grew up kind of in the heyday of the Dallas Cowboys were the standard of the NFL, right?
Yeah.
So one thing that the ownership group in Dallas, the Jerry Jones family, have done very, very well is marketing. And every year is the Cowboys' year. It doesn't matter who's quarterback, who's coach, how much talent or lack of talent they have on the field.
Right.
It's always a Super Bowl or bust year. And I do have to hand it to Jerry Jones, right? So he always has kept the Cowboys competitive. They give you just enough, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
enough. Even in years when they missed the playoffs, it's always like, well, we were 8-8 or 9-7, and we had those 2 close games, and
We're right there.
if the kicker just had made the field goal, or we were one bad call, one Dez catch away from finally getting back to Super Bowl glory or true contention. And I'm also a big golfer now. And my story is it was after the first playoff loss to the 49ers. So that is now, 3 seasons ago?
I don't remember. For Dallas? Yeah, I don't remember. It seems like they're in it every year.
So, so this year we lost to the Packers. Last year we lost to the 49ers. And the year before we lost to the 49ers at home. And after that season, I used to be one of those guys that when the Cowboys lost, you didn't want to talk to me for a week.
Yeah, I got you.
So do you remember? What was that tight end's name?
Which team?
Is it Jared Cook? Jared Cook
for the Packers? Oh yeah, are you talking about the famous throwing?
Yeah, he didn't play there very long, but it was Dak Prescott's and Ezekiel Elliott's rookie season.
Yep.
And they went 13-3. They actually beat the Packers at home that year.
Yep.
And we had the first round bye, if I remember correctly, and we opened up in the divisional round at home against the Green Bay Packers. And you guys still had Aaron Rodgers, who's one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time. And but he hadn't had the best season. He kind of limped into the playoffs, and he just didn't have that much talent around him. It was about the time of the breakup with Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
And y'all came out the first half, and I think it was like 35-3 or 28-3 at halftime. And I almost got into a fight. My best friend, I was at that game. My best friend had to kind of pull me back. My wife, who was my fiance back then, kind of had to tell me to settle down.
Yeah.
There's just this little dude. He was small. He was probably in his mid 40s, early 50s, and he was just talking smack like, "This is boring." I was just like, "Dude, go home, man. Go home. We don't want you here anyway." And he kind of had quit back, and I said, "What? You want to go in the parking lot? Like, I'll take you out in the parking lot, brother." Like,
Sure.
I was young. I had all this testosterone. I was lifting weights, working out, and I was just, looking for an excuse to take out that Dallas Cowboy rage, And so my wife, first 5 years of our relationship and then our marriage, was always like, "Well, the Cowboys lost. I'm not going to talk to them until probably Thursday or Friday." But at the same token, when the Cowboys won, man, I was like the most productive person at work.
Oh yeah, I gotcha.
Super thrilled, super happy. And my wife just said, "Sean, like, when are you going to stop letting the Dallas Cowboys
control your life?"
Yeah. And I said, "You know what? You make a really good point." And so we made a bet. We made a bet. I said, "Look, I'll give them up. I will not watch a game. They will not dictate my calendar. They will not. I won't get emotionally invested. But if I win this bet, give them up for an entire season, I get to go to TPC Sawgrass and bring a couple friends with me."
I like it.
And she said, "Okay, but if you lose, you have to send me and my best friend, to any city that, for a weekend trip, like a weekend girls trip." I said, "You got it, deal." And I love golf more than I love the Dallas Cowboys. And I won that bet, and it turned out to be the best decision I ever made in my life.
Yeah, man, you unplugged.
Our frequency was based on your passion and your entrepreneurship. I don't watch sports. I don't watch the news. Now I still know enough just gathering information, turn on the radio here and there. I'm friends actually with RJ Choppy. He's the co-host of the morning talk, the most popular morning talk show for sports in Dallas. So it's not like I'm totally, out of it, but it's I have so much more time in my schedule, man. it's
and
been a blessing to be able
emotional
to.
capacity too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So that's kind of a little bit about how I stand with the Dallas Cowboys. Look,
Yeah.
am I a fan? Sure, I'm a fan. I hope they win, but I also see it for what it is. They're professionals, man, just like me. So
Mm-hmm.
like, they need to say what they need to say, right? Like, you look unprofessional if you come up on the podium and say the wrong things. However, it is their job. And at the end of the day, and it's not taking anything away from them, but at the end of the day, they can't be on the same emotional roller coaster as the fans, or else they'd never be successful in their career.
Well, right.
Either the points add up, and they win, or they don't win. And at the end of the day, they're going home to their families just like we are.
Yeah. We just don't
And
have
when
to
you
stop
can
at a
when you can
podium on the
look
way
at
home.
right, but like, if you can look at professional sports the same way that you look at your professional career or your business, you're going to realize that, hey, these guys, other than just being athletically gifted and probably in better shape, like physical fitness wise, they're no different from you or me.
Oh, for sure. They have that
So,
spotlight turned on where everybody thinks they are different than you or me because they have to
right.
stop at the podium on their way home from work every day. We don't. We go to work, we come home, be with the family. They do the same thing, but they have that stop at the podium with all these lights and cameras, videotaping every single word that comes out of their mouth, and then after that goes off, and the media gets to play with every single word, and it's like, how many times are you in the course of casual conversation do you accidentally say the wrong word and you don't even know it, and then we don't have somebody that's like taking that and like turning it into a week's worth of content. So yeah, man, I mean, they're human beings at the end of the day. Like, I
Yeah.
gotta tell you, my least favorite thing about fantasy football, even though that's my business now, is the data and the analytics show for, let's just say, Tony Pollard to have a big game, and he doesn't for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
Then you hop on Twitter or anywhere on social media, which I don't even want to get, like, it's so disgusting, social media, but you see these people that are like ripping them to shreds and making, like, you hear about players getting death threats because they didn't have a good performance. And it's like, man, what are we doing here? Like, we're human beings and this is what we're doing with each other. But anyway, that's a whole nother thing. But there's an ugly side to fantasy football and gambling and sports fandom in general, dude. Like, sports fans, dude, how often do you see people, like you said, getting into fist fights about this type of stuff? It's bad, man. It's real bad.
I mean, one of my favorite memories was only because of the place where it was, oh gosh, sorry, 10, 11, 12 years ago. I went to a New York Rangers game versus New York Islanders in Madison Square Garden. I'd never
Oh,
been to Madison Square. I just happened to be in New York
yeah, gotta
and
go.
have the time and the ability. And we saw 5 fist fights, not on the ice. There's some fist fights on the ice, but I'm talking about
Yeah,
in the stands.
yeah,
And they're all thrown out. And I'm just like, man, you paid whatever, 100, $200 to be here, and now you're getting yourself tossed out.
yep.
And they're your
For
neighbor,
what?
by the way. I mean,
Right.
we're talking about the New York Rangers and New York Islanders, like,
Yeah.
come on.
And for what, man? Like, I don't know, dude. So I will say, though, the flip side of that, what my proudest moment and my favorite thing that I see is, I do hear all the time, and this isn't me trying to like toot the Packers horn or whatever, but I hear and see stories all the time about Atlanta Falcons fans that come up to Lambeau and Chicago Bears fans that come up to Lambeau,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll razz you and we'll give you crap for wearing the other team's jersey, but we're going to invite you into the parking lot for a brat and a beer and send you on your way. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yep.
that's the
Well,
stuff that
so,
gives me goosebumps. You know what I mean?
oh yeah, no, I'll say this: the people up in Wisconsin, I love the Midwest. It's very similar to Southern hospitality. I went to TCU, Texas Christian University, so they've gained some notoriety. They actually made it to the national championship
Yep.
game. I guess it was last season. Um, but
They took out my
I was
Badgers
there
in a bowl. Yeah.
I was at that game. I was at that
Oh,
game.
really? With Russell
So
Wilson playing quarterback?
Russell Wilson. Well, I think we've actually maybe played. I guess it was Russell Wilson because Andy
Andy
Dalton
Dalton
was a
too, right?
quarterback,
Yep. Yep.
and it was the Rose Bowl. It was the Rose Bowl.
Yep. That
But
one
I think
hurt.
it was the year before. But Russell was there. But
Oh, okay.
I met like the way that we entered. I guess we just ended up sitting with um, Wisconsin fans, and they were some of the nicest people I'd ever met.
Yeah, and that I love that
Um,
stuff, man. I get goosebumps. I get all like the warm and fuzzies when I hear that stuff because you see so much nastiness in sports. I love hearing that. That's
Yeah,
still
no,
how it
I've
is.
heard great things. So it's a dream. It's a dream of mine to visit Lambeau, and just a little cold. But
Come in
I will
September. It's
say,
great in September.
growing up, you got to remember when I was like the teenage years, when you like go in your backyard and you dream about throwing
Yeah.
Super Bowl, touchdowns at the Super Bowl. Uh, the Cowboys weren't anything to be proud of. It was like a carousel of quarterbacks. I remember when like Dallas fans were excited about Quincy Carter
Quincy
because
Carter,
he
yeah,
won
man.
9 games. Yeah, he won 9 games one season. People were like, oh my goodness, we finally got the. So
Right.
so Brett Favre was my favorite quarterback growing up.
No kidding.
I loved him. I loved his
I did too.
gunslinger mentality.
Oh
I
yeah.
love the fact that he had I still you can see Michael Jordan, Muhammad Ali. If I
Yeah.
stand up taller, it'll move. You're going to see some Tiger Woods.
Mm-hmm.
I love the people who don't care what other people think, and that's what I loved
Mm-hmm.
about Brett. If
Oh
he
yeah.
threw 4 interceptions, he didn't care. He was still
He's
slinging.
throw.
He was
Yeah, he'll
still
throw a fifth. He'll throw a fifth, and he's fine with it. Yeah, man. I mean, obviously, I grew up idolizing the guy. Like, I was born and raised a Packer fan, and you lived and died with it, right? I mean, there was plenty of times
Yep.
he lost the game, but man, watching him, he was easily the most fun to watch because he was just a kid playing on the playground pretty much all the time. Now,
Yeah.
you know, modern day Brett Favre, much less of a fan, but back then,
Yeah,
dude,
I don't I see.
he
I
was
don't.
good.
I don't keep up with them like you do. Like
I usually
I don't
don't, but
condone.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't condone bad behavior, but at the same time, like I always know there's two sides to a story. Um, so I try not to judge based on what
yeah,
the media tells me. If I don't know someone, which I don't know Brett Favre personally, but you know who I have met? I have met Donald Driver. He
oh, you
lives in
have,
my area now. Yeah, he owns a physical therapy and sports performance
yeah,
clinic. My wife didn't work for him, but worked in the same building in a different physical therapy clinic.
got it.
And he's a great guy. I got to ask him once about Brett, and he only had the best things to say about Brett Favre.
Yeah, let's see,
And,
and
and
that's
I asked him, and so Donald got to play with Aaron Rodgers too. And I asked
yep,
him, I said, who did you like better? He goes, are you asking me who's the better quarterback? Or are you asking me who was the better leader, who I went to war with?
right,
And I said, both. I want to know both. He goes, by a smidge, Aaron Rodgers was a better quarterback.
sure,
He said Aaron Rodgers made better decisions. Um, Aaron Rodgers, and I love Aaron. Aaron's also one of my favorite quarterbacks.
hmm
I actually kind of like what he's doing in terms of like freedom fighting, and I don't condone the drug use, but I like how independent he is and how free minded he is, and he's not afraid to tell his opinion despite what the majority might say or do. So I'm not taking anything away from Aaron Rodgers, but Donald Driver said that hands down, Brett Favre was the most fun, just
oh sure.
best all around person to have in the trenches there with you.
I don't doubt that for one second. I went to I not too long ago I toured a local news station's like just their kind of headquarters and see how like the show goes on, and the main sports reporter there, he's covered sports, but more specifically the Packers for years and years and years, decades now. And he basically said the same thing, like basically along the lines of, and I don't mean this to sound bad for Rodgers, but basically would love to grab a beer with Brett Favre, but Aaron Rodgers, I'll just stick to the interview and move on with my day. Sort of is along the lines of what he said, but his words. Just saying. But yeah, I've heard that more than once.
And like, again, like, people are different, right? Like, Aaron probably just values his privacy more in some ways.
For sure. No doubt. Yeah, they're
like,
way different humans, and we don't actually have a clue. I don't have a clue how he is in real life, So
right.
Yeah.
And you know, with Aaron, I can say this, just by watching him play, he was probably, I don't want to take anything away from Tom Brady. I just don't know anyone who knows Tom Brady. I've never met Tom Brady. But I would say, in the realm of like watching film and knowing precisely where a receiver is going to be, I don't know anyone who's better at that than Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, and Aaron Rodgers.
So in terms of,
we look, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I was just saying, in terms of like football IQ, I've long said that the best thrower of the football that I've ever seen is Aaron Rodgers. What he can do with the ball and where he can place it is insane. Like, I can't tell you how many times, being a Packer fan and living in Wisconsin, we always see clips from like family night. They would do a family night in these training camps, and he would throw the ball 40 yards down the field into a basket that's like this big on repeat, like easily. Throwing the football, it's insane what he can do. Now, I do believe that there's better quarterbacks, like incorporating the entire game, calling audibles at the line. Like Peyton Manning, the stuff he used to do, just from a mental like IQ standpoint, is unbelievable. But as far as throwing a football at a target goes, I don't think there's anybody that's ever come close to what, number 12 can do. So, or could do.
Yeah. And like, to me, my father-in-law is a big fan, and he says Johnny Unitas. But I don't know anything about Johnny Unitas. So to me, if I'm being objective as possible, if I'm being objective as possible, if I have to go by football IQ, I think I have to give it to Peyton by a smidge, and only because Peyton won a Super Bowl without the ability to throw the ball more than 10 yards.
Yeah, man.
I'm not joking. I mean, he's pretty open about that. The nerve in his
neck,
thing was all messed up. Yeah.
Well, he's the. I mean, all quarterbacks have control over the line of scrimmage, but he would come up literally as basically like a head coach every time he came to the line of scrimmage.
He was a head coach on the field,
and then he would call the play. There's nobody else I've ever seen do it to that degree, right? Most quarterbacks have two plays in mind. You have the play, and then you have the trash can play, dump it and move to the audible. Right. He would call up a whole new, let's switch everything around. You come over here. Like, it was insane watching that guy. Fun to watch, though.
Now, one guy that I've never got to meet, and I actually was slow to come around on Tom Brady, but I want to ask you, have you ever got to meet Tom Brady or hear people who have been connected? Because to me, Tom Brady is like the Michael Jordan.
Oh yeah, I agree. I agree. All debate about who's the best ever was put to rest when he left New England and just won another Super Bowl. Just like, all right, I'll go to Tampa and I'll do it here. He won one in Tampa, but it was his first. He won one in Tampa, but it was his first year there. He just walked into Tampa and just won.
He went to two, though. He went to two. He went to two. Patrick Mahomes beat him once, and Tom Brady beat Patrick once.
No, so he beat Patrick Mahomes. Are you talking about in Tampa?
In Tampa. They went to two Super Bowls.
He went to one, and they won the first one, but that was it. They didn't go back. After that, it was San Francisco. And then Philly.
Okay.
Yep.
You're right. Yeah.
But to just walk off the dynasty and win another Super Bowl, like it's nothing.
Agreed.
He did it like he's somebody just going to Walmart. Oh, I'll go over here and do it. It's insane.
I agree. So I'm going to bring up the newest phenomenon in a second in football world, because it has to do with. So my wife went to Texas Tech, and she took some classes with Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, nice.
I think she got to meet him once. It's not, nothing big time. They weren't like best friends or
Yeah,
even friends, but she
still.
got to meet him once or twice. And
Sure.
if you know anything about Dallas sports, the Hunt family owns the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Hunt
Yep.
family is in Dallas. And there's kind of a rivalry. And so when I kind of gave up the Dallas Cowboys, I decided that I loved watching Patrick Mahomes play. I loved him as a person. Seems like a good guy. My wife had only great things to say about him. And so I would say Patrick Mahomes is the only person that I see right now that could ever get into the conversation with Tom Brady.
No disagreement here.
And I also have to say, to me, Tom Brady is the Michael Jordan, and Patrick Mahomes is like the LeBron James. Meaning that, like in basketball, they're both great. You can argue who's the greatest. I'm not here to do that.
Right.
But Michael Jordan won on grit and taking things personally, and no one's going to outwork me. And I'm not questioning Patrick Mahomes' work ethic. But LeBron is one of the most athletically gifted human beings probably of all time.
Totally.
And to me, when I watch Patrick Mahomes play, he has this just gift of athleticism, and it's definitely football IQ, but he has this weird awareness and the ability to throw sidearm and underarm and
lefty.
Just, lefty.
Right.
To me, it's kind of like that. Like, but what I love about both of them is they're both winners, man. They're both winners.
100%. Brady always had that chip on his shoulder, and he was your typical pocket quarterback. Find the open guy, move the ball, move the chains. Patrick Mahomes is a guy who can win with nothing. I think that's an awesome comparison, by the way. Michael Jordan versus LeBron James, because it's a very similar. Like Brady came first, Michael Jordan came first. Michael Jordan had that not chip on it, well, a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, but he, like you said, he had that grit. You're not going to outwork me. That's Tom Brady. Like he was. Like, look at what the guy's done with his body and, like, everything that he does just from a preparation and a mental standpoint. And then you got Mahomes, who's just – I agree with you that as long as, like, God forbid, any sort of crazy injury or anything like that, but it's already obvious that Patrick Mahomes is going to be in that conversation. Like, they've been to, 6 straight AFC championship games? They just came off a down year. Like, this was not the Kansas City Chiefs this year that we usually see. And they just walked right into the Super Bowl. They ran through Josh Allen. They ran through Lamar Jackson. And here they are. They're in the Super Bowl again. It's like there's no doubt that Patrick Mahomes is going to be in that conversation already. And the guy's still got a decade left in his career, which is nuts.
So one thing, too, that's interesting to me about Kansas City is they defy this idea, which I don't really believe in either. But they defy it, is this idea of flipping a switch. But like this, it hasn't just been this season, but it seems like this season more than any others is they just have this switch like, oh, it's playoffs.
Yep.
Oh, now we care.
Yep.
And
so
when we care, it doesn't matter who you put up against us. We're going to win this football game.
So I was recently on social media talking about this because the Super Bowl coming up, right? We got the Chiefs and 49ers. If you look at the great body of work of 2023, the 49ers have clearly been the better football team. Clearly. Like, no doubt about it.
100%.
However, over the last month, Kansas City, like you said, flipped a switch, and they are playing their best football of the entire year on both sides of the ball. And San Francisco has been starting these playoff games really slowly. Like, they started out behind Green Bay. They started out behind Detroit.
They should have. If it wasn't for the ball hitting the guy's helmet, that was the momentum change. When the ball hit the guy's helmet and he got the catch, that swung the moment.
Totally. And if they start slow against Patrick Mahomes, they're not going to recover from that. So we'll see, man. It should be a great Super Bowl. But yeah, like you said, they can just, it's playoff time. Here we go. Let's ramp it up. You know what I mean? It's nuts.
Yep. It's insane to me because that is true. That is true. When the lights are brightest, that's when champions really do come alive. So, but my question to you is Taylor Swift the switch?
I don't think so. I think maybe for Travis
I
Kelce,
don't think
because
so either.
if I'm being honest, dude, I mean, he's a grown man now, of course, but I remember being in like high school, and if I knew like the girl that I liked was there, or some girls that I liked were there, I turned it up a notch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so I think maybe for Travis Kelce
Yeah.
in particular, but I mean, in football, I don't think there's any position in all of sports that's more important than the quarterback in the NFL. And your team is typically
Right.
as good as your quarterback is. And as long as Patrick Mahomes is going to flip that switch, everybody else is coming with him. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think for Travis Kelce, maybe there's a little extra motivation, but I think for everybody else, it's just, hey, Patrick's flipping the switch. Let's go. Let's do what we got to do.
But so I know that you don't follow everything in the media. This one's just fun, but have you been following the whole social media, Taylor Swift? I've heard some crazy stuff, man, that like the NFL paid Taylor Swift to be Travis Kelce's girlfriend so that they could get to. I mean, the craziest stuff is out there, man. I just wondered if you had any thoughts.
That's not surprising at all. No, I haven't heard that, but I'm not surprised by it even a little bit. I think my favorite thing that I've seen on social media about the Taylor Swift is, I don't know if you ever saw those. For a while, it was popular. I don't know if it was TikTok or Instagram, but it was popular for the wife or the girlfriend of a relationship to talk about her putting Travis Kelce on the map, and then the guy in the relationship is like, "What are you talking about? He's one of the he gets all like bent out of shape. He's like, you don't understand. Travis Kelce's already the best tight end." Blah blah blah. But somebody actually made a really good point though, and I liked this rebuttal. They said Taylor Swift has millions of fans. Obviously, I don't think there's a more famous human being on the planet right now. Like she is the person right now. But somebody
she's like, more transcendent. She's more transcendent than the NFL is.
For sure.
I have to give her that.
I agree. And somebody did the math though of saying like I'm going to butcher it, so I'm just going to paraphrase, but Taylor Swift has X millions of fans, but the NFL has X millions of fans, which is more. So theoretically, the NFL is putting Taylor Swift on the map because now it was just funny that they tried to like reverse it. But anyway, that's the extent of what I know from like the only other thing I can even think of with the media is after Travis Kelce, or I shouldn't say media, social media. After Travis Kelce, after he scored a touchdown or they beat the Bills or something, he did this. He did the heart thing. And there's a ton of people who are like, oh, he's trying to stick it to Damar Hamlin, the guy who the cardiac arrest on the Bills last year.
Yeah.
And then the other half is like, no, he's telling Taylor Swift, I love you. And it's like, it turned into this whole thing on Twitter. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to get off. I signed off. I'm like, I'm getting out of here. This is insane.
People are nuts, man. There is no way you could convince me Travis Kelce did that to stick it to a person who had cardiac arrest.
That died on the field and was revived? Yeah, there's no chance. And that's not the kind of guy that Travis Kelce is anyway. You know what I mean?
No, and even if he was that type of guy, I still wouldn't believe it. It'd take a lot. It would take Travis Kelce coming out publicly saying, "Yes, I did that because,"
and even then, I think somebody's coercing.
Yeah, probably me too. I mean, people are just absolutely just. But I ask you that because I was traveling and the game was on. I was watching some of it. Did you know that Travis Kelce broke Jerry Rice's playoff records this year?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, as a tight end.
Jerry Rice.
I know.
As a tight end.
Untouchable. I know, man. It's nuts. It's nuts.
I mean, I just got my goodness. Right now.
I think
me too. Actually, thinking about it, because look, there's been a lot of great wide receivers, but I still don't think you can argue. Yeah, but I still don't, out of wide receivers. And granted, it's the playoff records. Like I think Jerry Rice still owns all the regular season. By far. But my goodness, to even be second to Jerry Rice as a wide receiver in the playoffs is a big deal. Not to mention a tight end breaking his records.
That's the thing to me, is that he's a tight end. That's unbelievable. Because Jerry Rice, his records are untouchable for the most. He's so far ahead.
They're literally untouchable.
It's insane. So anytime you even get into the conversation is one thing, but to pass him as a tight end, That's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. But yeah, man, it's nuts.
So let me ask you this, man. What got you motivated? Because I'm gonna be honest, man. What you're doing isn't easy. It's a lot of data. So I work in data. I work in healthcare. It's a ton of data. It's tedious. I mean, I love what I do. I love the outcomes of what I do. I love helping people. But like the reason I say yours is harder is because there's a lot of people who try to do what you do, not even to make money as a business, but just on their own to win bets. Tell me a little bit about like how you got into this and why you decided to kind of go into it full time.
Yeah, man. It's so before I jump into that, I just want to tell you I pulled it up. Larry Fitzgerald is the next closest to Jerry Rice in career receiving yards, and he's more than 5,400 yards behind him, and he played 16 seasons and he's never come. It's insane.
And Fitz is an incredible human, incredible player.
Totally, 100%. I didn't realize Terrell Owens was third, but anyway. Yeah, man. So to answer your question, I've been obsessed with the NFL ever since I was a kid. So, like when I was 7 or 8 years old, somewhere in that area, I quote unquote invented a game where I would take 2 pencils, but I don't know if you remember this. I sense you and I are similar age. I might have you by a couple years, but I don't know if you remember back in the day, they had those NFL pencils. Every single pen. You had the Packers, the Bears, the Lions, the Vikings, every team, right? I had all. I can't even say 32. It was 30 teams back then. There were no Panthers or Jaguars yet. And I invented this game where I would close my eyes and I would randomly grab 2 pencils, right? Let's just say I picked up the Dolphins and the Jets. And I would twirl them in my hands and I would drop one. And whichever one I dropped was the losing team. Whichever one that was still in my hand was the winning team. And I would turn around and I would update my notebook. Okay, the Dolphins won, the Jets lost. And I would do 16 game seasons, playoffs. Like I did for years. I did this. This was like how I created my own entertainment, right? So I was kind of nuts in the head already. Like who's sitting here playing with unsharpened pencils for hours? But that's what I did. Then I became old enough to start playing video games and I learned how to play Madden, right? So I would play Madden 97 and I would play a game, let's just say with the Packers. And then after the game, I would go over to my grandpa's typewriter at the time, not a computer, a typewriter, and I would write a quote unquote news article like the Packers defeated the 49ers and Brett Favre threw for blah, blah, blah. And I would go back and play another game and then write another news article. That evolved into me playing later versions of Madden, but I wouldn't even play the game. I would simulate the game, and then I would like do the scouting and the drafting and the trades and the free agency, and I would keep in an Excel spreadsheet, I would keep track of all the stats and all like everything that I did over decades of these seasons, right? So eventually that led to fantasy football, and once I played that for the first time, that just unlocked this whole new level of obsession. And I've been playing since I was, I think 18 years old was the first year. I've been playing every year since. It grew and it snowballed. Like I went from playing in 1 league to 2 leagues to 5 leagues to joining these massive contests and these high stakes leagues and DFS and gambling and all that stuff. Eventually I got to a point where the resources that I would subscribe to wasn't giving me what I wanted. And I started to create a resource for myself where I would do all this research and bundle that research into one resource that I used only for myself. I had no intention of like giving it to other people. And then my buddy saw it and he goes, dude, this thing is insane. You need to put this out. Like, you need to put this out there. And he convinced me to start putting it into a fantasy football subreddit on reddit.com or whatever, which you want to talk about like vitriolic social media platforms. Reddit is like the most anonymous social media platform, which leads to a whole nother level of toxicity so anyway, I was terrified.
It's scary out there.
Dude, I was terrified. I was like, I'm not doing it. There's no way. Like, this is just for me. I'm not trying to give it to other people. He convinced me to do it one time, and it exploded. It blew up. Like, people, like, it got
Amazing.
it got to a point where people were literally, I had strangers sending me direct messages, which, by the way, on Reddit, you use screen names. So I don't know, like, it didn't say John Smith. It said, like, Techboy47. And they were like, what's your Venmo? I want to donate for this. I had these random screen names asking for my Venmo so they could donate for something that I never even meant for them to see in the first place. So anyway, when that happened, that just, okay, light bulb. There's a business opportunity here, right? So I kept creating that over the next 1 or 2 years. I think it was 2 years. All the while, at the exact same time, I was reaching this part of my career. I had my day job was B2B sales. I had been in B2B sales for a decade up to that point. And this was back in 2022. So only like 2 years ago.
Okay.
And I was just reaching this period in my life where the work I was doing wasn't fulfilling in any way. I was like waking up. I was good at what I did. I was waking up, I was doing the job, collecting the check, paying the bills, going to bed and doing it again. But I was never like, Monday, let's go do this thing. The only time I ever felt truly happy was in my fantasy football spreadsheets, right? So at the time where I had strangers donating money, which is all the social proof you need, in my opinion.
Yeah.
At the same time of me just not feeling happy with my current job, there was one day, it all culminated in one day. We're at the water park with my son and my daughter, and my son got brave. He was like, I'm going to go down this big water slide. I'm like, let's do it, man. Prior to that, he was terrified of water slides, right? I said, let's do it, man. We climbed all the way up. We waited in line. It probably took us 45 minutes to get up there. And sure enough, we get to the top and he looks in and it's pitch black. I don't want to do it, Dad. No, I'm terrified. I don't want to do it. I'm like, selfishly, I'm like, come on, man. We just waited. Like, we got to do this thing. And I grabbed him by the shoulders and I was like, buddy, sometimes the most important thing you can do in your life is the thing that you're the most scared of. And
I love that.
In that moment, a light bulb went off in my head. He didn't listen to me. We walked all the way back down the stairs. But I literally went back.
Listened to you.
I listened to me. I went back to the table and I told my wife, I'm like, I think I'm going to quit my job. And that was a scary moment because at the time I was the breadwinner, if you will. She was working, but I was bringing in the majority of our income, right? And we have 2 kids under 7 years old. We have a mortgage, all that stuff. It would have been really easy for her to be like, no, you're not quitting your job. There's no chance. But she did the opposite. She was like, she basically told me, like, we can figure the money out. If that becomes like worst case scenario, you bartend. Like, you used to bartend, you can do it again. Worst case scenario, if we're in a pinch and we need money, or your resume has a decade of B2B sales experience on it, you'll go get another sales job. What we can't fix is you spending the rest of your life regretting that you didn't take this chance to do something you genuinely love and you're obsessed with when you had the chance. So she could have talked me out of it, but instead she talked me into it. And that right then and there, I like put in my 2 weeks notice, and that was March of 2022. So here we are coming up on 2 years since then. And it's been a wild, wild ride. I never had any intention of owning a business. I was never like, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to start a bit. It just happened. And here we are, man. It's one hell of a ride. What'd you say?
It called you. It found you.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it was. Yeah. It happened it was a happy accident. I don't know if you follow Dennis Geelan on LinkedIn, but he always talks about happy accidents, and it just kind of happened by accident, and here we are.
Yeah, well, what's crazy to me is the reason I call my podcast The Unconquered is I don't ever do episodes on this forum, on this platform that are individual. It's always me speaking, learning about someone else, typically some type of entrepreneur. And I created it because it was all about designing a life that you love to live. Because I quit my job for similar reasons. I just wasn't satisfied. It wasn't fulfilling. People talk about how entrepreneurship, you work more. I probably work about the same, if not a little bit less now. And it's not even about the work or the hours. It's about am I happy doing it? Because if I'm
Wanting to do
happy
it.
doing what
Yeah.
I do,
Yeah.
then I'm happy with my family and I'm
Right.
present
Yes.
with my family and not stressed all the time about something that I'm not finding any fulfillment out of. But I bring that up because everyone that I've interviewed, and I read a lot. I'm a big reader.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone I've interviewed, they're doing totally different things, have totally different passions, have totally different callings in life. But the same elements, the same themes show up over and over and over again. It is nuts.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like a personality trait of, you know, one of the themes is having a supportive marriage or a support system around you that actually cares about you and not about the money you make. Because me and my
Right.
wife had a very similar conversation. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, but me and my wife, we went through some financial hardship to make my entrepreneurial dream, uh, a reality.
Sure.
So there's a lot of sacrifice involved
Tons.
in chasing your dreams. The other theme is, no, you didn't grow up wanting to be an entrepreneur, but your passion manifested itself at a very, very young age.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, for
kind
sure.
of the kind of the third theme is the ability to diagnose earlier in life than most others, that if I don't do this, even if I fail, even if I lose, like, that's what I kind of told my wife. I was like, even if we lose our home, everything goes to hell.
Mm-hmm.
I said, we can always rebuild. But what I can't do is go to my deathbed and wish.
Dude, I said the exact same thing. Like literally the term deathbed and everything. It's nuts. Yeah, I think you're right. And I think that's kind of what it is, dude. My whole thing is we have one life. That's it. We get one life. I don't want to get
We
to
get one
70,
shot
80,
at this thing.
one shot at this thing, dude. I don't want to get to 70, 80, 90, hopefully 100 years old and be like, shit. I had a great B2B sales career. Awesome. I don't care. Like that didn't move the needle for me at all. Like it paid for our house, which is cool. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying money is not important because I promised my wife I wouldn't let us get to a point where we're like gonna lose the house or we can't put food on the table. I promised her
Right.
that if it ever got to that point, then I that's it for me. But
Figured out. Yeah.
but I had a chance, and I think that is an important piece of my story is that I had that social proof, right? It wasn't like I was like, you know what, I just feel like doing fantasy football now. I had people that I didn't even know that were like, hey, let me donate for this, and that to me was like, okay, there's something here. Let me take my shot, and if it works, awesome. My whole life is set. But if it doesn't, then I know. Like I would rather try and fail than not try and not know if it would have worked, So we'll see,
Right.
man.
Well, so I'm sure it's evolved a little bit since then. So as we kind of close out here and finish up, talk to
Mm-hmm.
me about the process. Like, say, like someone wants to sign up, which I'm going to drop your link in the description box so people can find you, go to your website,
Yeah.
sign up, log in. How does the process work? Like, if I wanted to come in, what does it look like?
You're talking about after you subscribe, what it means to be a subscriber?
Yeah, if I were
Yeah.
to subscribe, obviously I get insider information that you
Mm-hmm.
put together, but like,
Mm-hmm.
what's kind of the customer experience? What can people
Yeah.
expect after they sign up?
So I'd say there's like four main things, right? So there's a couple seasons too, if you will. So you think about before the football season starts. It's funny because I put on Twitter a poll not too long ago. I said, what's the most important thing about winning fantasy football? Is it money, the trophy, or beating your friends, right? And you can imagine what the majority of people voted for. Everybody's like, I want to beat my friends. Like, money's
Beating
great,
your
but
friend.
that's just like the backup thing. So everybody wants the whole thing with fantasy football is everybody wants that competitive edge, that competitive advantage, right? And we're at a point now where the market is very saturated, where a lot of people are using the same stuff. They're using Fantasy Pros, they're using ESPN, or a lot of them are using the same stuff. I'm still relatively new, where a lot of people don't know who I am. So the idea is
Mm-hmm.
before the season even starts, you're coming in and you're getting what I call the draft guide, which is built off of 300 plus real drafts that I do personally and 30 plus hours of weekly research. I'm literally combing through spreadsheets all week. And I build this draft guide so that you have a good sense of who to draft, when to draft them, and why you want to draft them. Because I write an analysis for every single player, or a preview, like here's what to expect in the 2024 season based on all of this data, right? So it starts there. I want you to have a competitive team that's already ahead of your friends and your league mates before the season even begins. Then we move to in the season, which then I'm doing a lot of the regular, like I'm helping out with like, here's players you should add from waivers. Here's players that it's okay to drop. Here's some trades to consider making. But the big thing is, and I told you that I started creating this tool on Reddit that people started donating for. That's a tool that I call the heat map. And what that is, it's something that I build 30 hours of research every single week. And I put it into one location where if you play fantasy football, at some point during the week, you're probably trying to decide between 2 or 3 or 4 guys. And you're like, man, I can't decide between AJ. Well, no, you're going to start AJ Brown, but you get the idea. Maybe 2 or 3 fringe guys that you can't decide between. And you're going to come over to what I call the heat map, and it's going to tell you exactly what to expect from that player that week. He's teed up for an explosion week, a mediocre week, a bad week because he's going up against a tough defense, whatever it is, so that you can make those really critical decisions much more seamlessly and much more confidently. So you're making those tough decisions that are often the difference between winning and losing, but you're doing it with confidence and with data to support that decision. The third thing that I'm actually launching this year, shout out to Greg Howe, who came to me with this, and he was pretty persistent when I was in my busy season. He's helping me build an chatbot, an AI chatbot that references all that work I do, those 30 plus hours of weekly research, so that people, my subscribers, come in and they can't decide between 2 players, right? They can't decide between, God, why can't I think of players to pick from right now? Let's just say Tony Pollard.
I'll give you an older example. So I won.
Yeah.
This was years ago. I won my fantasy football leagues because I saw that Robbie Anderson was getting hot and AJ Green was falling off the map.
Okay.
And I sat AJ Green in the semifinal and then the finals in 2 leagues and played Robbie Anderson. And Robbie Anderson exploded both those weeks, and I won both leagues.
That's a great example. See, that's a little bit of an example, assuming we're talking about prime AJ Green and not Cardinals AJ Green, right? I'm guessing AJ Green was still kind of.
It was Bengals AJ Green.
Bengals. Okay, so back then he was elite. He was a stud, right? So that is one of those decisions that takes some massive guts, because a lot of times people have. And that's a big part of my approach, by the way, is removing the name and like giving you, here's player A and player B. Which one do you think is better teed up? And then you choose player B and you're like, oh shit, it's Robbie Anderson and not AJ Green. But yeah, taking 2 of those fringe players and you come to the AI chatbot and you say, I can't decide between player A and player B. And it's going to it's going to give you an answer, but then it's going to provide reasoning why based on that 30 hours of research that I do every week. And the last thing that I need to mention for being a subscriber is I have a online community, and that's subscribers only. So it's a Discord channel. I don't know if you're familiar with Discord.
Yeah, I know Discord.
I don't talk about this enough, dude, in my sales and my marketing. Like, I started it as like a Q&A thing. If people have questions, they can ask. But it's turned into this full-blown community of people that are like, they enter as complete strangers, but then they bond over fantasy football, right? Because all of us are in there because of fantasy football, which leads to talking about, we just celebrated that 2 of our subscribers had kids 1 day apart from each other, right? And it's like, it's turned into this thing where one of my subscribers lives in Wisconsin, went to the Packers at Broncos game in Colorado, and while he was there, he met up with another one of my subscribers who lives in Denver because they knew each other through. Awesome. That's easily like my favorite. I just got goosebumps thinking about it. That's like my favorite part about what has kind of accidentally happened is this online community where, I don't know about you, dude, but as I get older, it's actually harder to meet people that
Make
I
friends?
genuinely
Meet
want to be
people?
friends with. Like when you're a kid, it's
Yep.
easier, but when you get older, it's like, I'm fine knowing you and being cordial, but I don't necessarily want to hang out with you. But in this instance, it's like you're coming in and you're instantly bonding with people that have the same interests that you do. And it's really cool watching like friendships blossom across the country. And the whole idea, though, as a subscriber, is you come in and you have all these dilemmas that you're trying to sort through. You put it on Discord and you workshop it among 280 plus other paid fantasy football players. So you're not getting some random subscribers that don't know what they're talking about. You're getting people who pay for analytics and insight that can help you sort through those decisions. So there's something for every season, man. Before the season, during the season, and then right now after the season, we're all talking baseball, we're talking basketball, we're talking hockey and golf. So it's there's a lot to being a subscriber, and I don't talk about that community aspect enough. I need to talk more about it.
Awesome, man. Well, I think you might have gotten one more person back on the fantasy football bandwagon, just out of wanting to be part of your community, wanting to support your business. So
appreciate it.
Look for me in there sometime soon.
Love it, man.
But
Thank
Mikey,
you.
man, I really appreciate you coming on. Really love your story. Love what you're doing. I guess to close out, I do have to ask, Basement Brewed, are you a craft brew guy?
So, yeah. Not like, okay, so let me clarify. I don't brew my own beer. I do get that a lot. People are like, you brew your own beer? No, I don't. The whole idea with Basement Brewed is that I'm literally in my basement brewing up fantasy football analytics. I don't know, corny as shit, but I used to.
No, I love it. But I mean, do you enjoy a good craft beer?
I do. When I
What's your
had my
favorite?
own podcast and my YouTube show, the whole idea was that I would crack open a different Milwaukee-based beer every single time, and I would give a little review on it, and then I would get into the fantasy football stuff, which I'm reviving the show, and I might bring that element back into it. You asked what my favorite is. Yeah, man, it was kind of my shtick, but you asked what my favorite is. There is a tiny little brewery here in Milwaukee, more specifically Bayview is the city. It's called Enlightened. Okay. Unfortunately for you, I don't think they're out of Wisconsin yet. Like they're exploding with popularity in Wisconsin, but I don't think they go anywhere else. But they have a beer called Cream City Bricks, and it's intentionally awesome. The color of the can is intentionally designed with the exact same colors as the Milwaukee Bucks current, like green and cream. So I love the can. I should go grab one. But it's no joke. It's like the most delicious, like crispy beer. It's a cream ale, which I don't know how you feel about those, but it's right now it's my favorite. Yeah. It's my favorite beer on the planet, and it's not even close. And this is not a paid sponsorship.
No,
I love it.
Well, in the summertime, I ain't going up there in the wintertime, but in the summertime, sometime I'll come visit you. And we'll grab one of those beers, man. Really enjoyed having you on today. Thank you so much. To close out, guys, you can find Mikey on LinkedIn. That's how we met. Incredible dude. Super down to earth. I love your vibe. And then to join or to learn more, basementbrewedff.com. And wish you the best success, man. And we'll have to do this again sometime.
Heck yeah, man. I'd love to. I love doing this sort of thing. And I like the vibe of your show where it's very just like two dudes having a chat. I appreciate it, man. But yeah, thanks for having me on. I know your schedule's busy too, so I appreciate you reaching out to me and getting me on here.